Everyone, so welcome back to Agentic AI Mastery. This is going to be episode 4 and totally we are diving into something really exciting and foundational that we call as MCP, Model Context Protocol. If you have ever wondered how do different AI modules talk to external data sources, how do they just connect with the tools, apps, and even other systems without getting lost or the confused? That's the magic behind the protocols like we call as MCP. Just like an internet has a standard rules for communications, like a human browser, like how browser talks to the website, AM modules know how have their own smart way to interact with the world around them, and the smart way is what we are going to break down today. So by the end of this episode, you will be really clear, easy to understand a picture of what MCP is actually is, what is the matter of modern AI systems, how it works behind the scenes, and most important, how it just shaping future of intelligent agents. So just buckle up because we are just about to explore how AI system plan, adapt, and learn now how they just connect like never before. Now let's get started with the first ever slide, that is what is called a protocol. So now let's just start by understanding a foundational something we call as about the protocols, we can just say. Okay, so before we just deep dive into a model context protocol, we first need to understand a very basic but a powerful concept. What is protocol? So in the simple word, a protocol is just like a set of rules that helps two computers talk to each other properly. It's just like the way we just talk with the friends, family. We just speak in the same language like English or Hindi, whatever the mother tongue you have, and follow the social rules, something like talking turns, talk, moving your head. So these are the something you are just giving the action. Now computer need the same things to communicate between the two computers. They need to just agree on the rules to send, receive, and understand the information correctly. So on this slide you can just see the example of HTTP, some of the very famous protocols. HTTP, whenever you open a website like YouTube, Amazon, anything, your browser use HTTP to ask for the web page. Now we have TCP IP. This is like a road system of the internet. It just decide how data packets move across the different computers. We have JSON-RPC. So JSON-RPC, this is one of the very special for an AI and MCP systems. It helps two programmers just exchange their structured information in a super clean format that we call as just JSON. So think of it is like HTTP just talking to a website, TCP IP how your words or a data travel across your roads, and we have JSON-RPC that's sending a clean, neat letter inside a standard envelope. It's like a JSON format. So when we say model context protocol, we are just talking about using very clean, very secure communication rule between intelligent AI systems and AI agents. So this makes sure that systems are not confused, not leaking data, understanding each another perfectly. Now that is what we call it protocol really means. So we are just really ready to understand how MCP build intelligent cooperation between AI systems. I will go with the next slide. I think what is model context protocol. So I will give you really now this the understand. We know what we have understand from the previous slide. What is protocol? Let's just talk about something very exciting that we call is model context protocols. Imagine you have a smartphone. I will give you one of the example. Please focus on my word. Imagine you have a smartphone chargers. If every brand has a different charger shape, it is really, it will be a nightmare, right? Something like you have an iPhone 14 or 13, you have a Samsung, you have something like really something big type of charger cables. So this is now what is going to be the possible. It won't be fixed for any of the phones. You could not charge your phone easily while traveling. You need to just keep every charger separately. That's why we now use an USB-C type charging even for the iPhone 16. Whichever the new model is coming in the market, they use an USB-C type. One common shape that fits for many phones, laptop and device. That MCP is actually like that, but for an AI models it is. Instead of every AI model needing a different complicated way to talk to tools, database, MCP give you one simple standard way just like a USB-C. So it was just created by Anthropic, and it helps an AI model to easily connect with external database, APIs, tools like calculator, search engine, anything external APIs, and even a business application they can connect. And how it works, this LLM basically like Cloudy, ChatGPT, Gemini, just talk using an MCP. Now MCP makes sure it just smoothly connected to all the external information, no miss, no confusion. Think of the MCP is like a universal adapter, correct? You can just think of anything universal adapter. The way you are just going to see about the USB-C, it just lets the AI model to plug in, understand many different source without any special coding each time. This is a super important because an AI becomes smarter. It does not talk to the outside world. It's clean, reliable and standard way, not get us stuck in a technical problem. So just like in USB-C chargers, how we just charge the device, MCB is changing how AI agent connect, work with the real world data and the tools. I hope so you are just understand with this slide. Now we are moving with the next slide, why use the MCP. So okay, now it's going to be one step deeper. Now why do we even need MCP when we already have an APIs, correct? We many of the person they already had the used an APIs. Let's just take a simple example again. Just focus on my words. Imagine you want to just visit 5 different shops. One shop for the clothes, one for the shoes, one for the food, one for the gadgets, and one for the medicines. If there was no malls, you would need to just visit 5 different places separately. That's trading, right? APIs are like visiting 5 separate shops. Each connection had to be made individual each time. So that's now imagine a big shopping mall. Okay, now one entrance, and inside you can just find the clothes, you can find the food, you can find the electronic device, everything in the one place. That's what MCP does for the AI modules. You can just see, you don't have to visit every time one by one. Just provide all the 5 it can manage by the MCP, correct? So instead of just making separate connection for every tool or data source, MCP allow the AI system to connect at once and access everything inside, correct? So like we will just talk about the again the different approach. So with this MCP models does not, what is the first benefit I will just see. So I will just tell you, even with MCP model does not need to create a different API for every tools the way we just do in the APIs. One standard connection open access to many sources, many tools at once. Now let's just talk about another huge advantage. There is two-way of communication. In traditional APIs, it's like a one-way street. That data goes from a server to the user. That's it. But with the MCP, it's like a two-way of conversation. AI model can just receive a data, correct, and then and send back the action as well. Imagine an AI that not only read your temperature from something like a smart device, but also send a commands to lower your AC if it's too hot. That's a two-way of connection communication, and MCP make it really easy for that. So that is the second benefit, is that MCP does not just read the information, it just take the action based on what it learns, correct? I hope so you understand about why we need to use this MCP. Now I will moving with this really the most important, we can just say slide, that is basically architect of the MCP. So again, now we are going to one more level deeper and clearly understanding how the whole MCP system is structured. So think of this slide is like a city map, okay, showing who talks to whom and how information flows. So you can just see MCP host. So on the left side, when we have an MCP host, These are the like platform, like application, website or services that use MCP client to connect to the MCP server. Correct? This is the MCP client, you are just connecting with the MCP servers. I'll give you really in the simple example. Imagine an app like chatbot or any dashboard that wanted real-time data. Now MCP host act as a home for this client connection. Correct? This is how you can just take one of the example. MCP client, whenever we are just talking about the MCP clients, inside this host we have MCP clients. Okay, you have one client, two client. These are the actual piece of the software that speak MCP language. They send a request to the MCP server and wait for the replies. You can just think of like the client like a mouthpieces for an app or anything, handling all the talking and listening every time. Now we have MCP server. In the center we just see that MCP server, the brain of the operation, you can just say. The MCP server manages the full conversation. It listens to requests from the MCP client, fetch the right data or the tools, and send back the response to this MCP client. So you can just, again I will give you one example. It's like a super organization receptionist. It just taking a request, fetching what's needed and returning the right answer. Correct? So we have a local data sources. What exactly is mean? And remote services. On the right side, whenever you see our local data services and remote services, so local data source could be like a files, data, database or internal APIs. Remote service could be things like a external APIs, cloud tools or third party applications. So again I will give you one more example. Imagine the MCP server pulling a patient records from hospital database. Correct? Or real-time stock price from the finance applications. All behind are the scene from the local source or remote services. Now full flow I can just give you in the quick recap. An MCP host runs the MCP client. I'm really sorry. MCP host run the MCP clients and clients talk to the MCP server. This server reach out this data source or any remote services, and finally the server send the right answer to back to the client. This simple but powerful structure makes the MCP extremely flexible and scalable for world AI integration. Correct? I hope so you just got it exact what I mean to know about the architecture of the MCPs. Now we are moving with the next slide that we understand a high level architecture of MCP. Let's quickly walk through how the actual connection between the client and the servers happens. So this is really a full journey from starting the connection, exchanging the information, and then after finally closing the session. It's called a connection life cycle. This is how you need to make sure you need to understand. The first step is initialization. So it all start with the initialization. Here the client send an initial request to the servers. The server then respond back to the initialized response. Basically, finally, once everything is ready, the client send a initialized notification. Correct? Now just at this point, the connection is fully ready to be used. Now, second step is message exchange. We move into message exchange phase. Now the client can send a request message. Correct? And the server send a respond message, and sometimes one way message can also be sent without expecting any reply. Okay, you can have a different type of scenario. We will just talk in the later in the videos. Think of it like a texting. Okay, something you send a message and wait for a reply. That is what you can request and response. Sometimes you just drop a quick update without expecting one anything from that side. So that is what about the message exchange. And finally you have termination. And when we just work is done, either the client or the server can end the connection. This call is termination. Just like a phone call, you say what you need to say, and when you have done, you just hang up. So this is really the simple three-step cycle. Initializing, exchange and terminate is the basic heartbeat that keeps all MCP communication smooth and organized. Now let's move forward again about talking about the key features of MCPs. I hope so this you will get to know what exact means. So now this is what MCP is, how it work structure. Let's just look about the key feature and what exactly offer in the AI system. And to keep it really simple, I will explain again with example like travel guide for a tourist. First, MCP use a JSON-RPC 2.0 message. What does it mean? This is just like a fancy way of saying, hey, we are just talking in very clean structure way. Okay, like asking and answering in the question answer format, no confusion, no messy message. Imagine using a Google Translate to make sure tourists understand the locals, and that's how JSON RPC helps in the communications. Now MCP mainly organize everything into a three parts. The first is resources. What does AI have to access to? Think of it's like giving the tourist a map, a list of places and a picture. In MCP, resources are basically your the data like documentations, files contain the AI can read, use or refer to it. Here's your hotel information like a sightseeing plan, your tickets, everything that can find in the resources. Second, we have a prompts. How should the AI interact with the world? Imagine handling the tourists some faces like in the local language like where is the nearest cafe or how much does this cost? Simply in the MCP send a predefined message and workflow to tell that AI how to ask, act or the response. So predefined question or the action plan so it's know how I behave easily. We have a third thing is the tools. What can AI do with the world? Finally, tools are giving the tourist an app to book a ride, hotels, and translate instant. Correct. In the MCP tools are real function that AI can trigger. For example, calling an external APIs, fetching a live database, triggering any calculation APIs. So if AI needs something, it does not just read; it can just take a control. So I hope so in the short, MCP does not just give you an AI knowledge, it gives you the brain, a mouth or hand to read, write, act in the real world. So I hope so you just understand each and everything about the MCP. We'll go with the next video where I will give you some of the open source where you can use an MCP and real world hands-on on the MCP. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.